Hi everybody, better late than never. So for those of you that haven't tuned in before, I'm Phyllis Bucci.
And I'm Kim Henderson.
And we're here today live at Holistic Apothecary in Ambler. And each week we do a little segment. And we hope to encourage you to change your life and make it what you want it to be without all of the restrictions and everything.
Right.
Each week's a different topic. You're welcome to go on and check out the archive of what we've done so far. And today we're talking about rewriting your life, recreating your life the way you want it to be. And not so much as falling victim, you know, we're past that already. It's more about really truly looking at the story you carry around with you and you keep playing over the old tapes in your head and really writing it down now. Write it down, look at it, and kind of say, okay, this is what happened, but what did I learn from that? Like, how did that happening affect the way I look at things today or the way I feel today?
Yeah.
Basically.
So we kind of discuss topics like early in the morning the same day, and then we kind of run with it, and you just pretty much said a lot of what I wrote down from this morning, which is funny. I wrote down accepting the parts of me that are shaped by my experience.
Right, and it could be a smell, a color, a song, a something that triggers that old thought, that old drama, trauma, incident, whatever, and instead of feeling the emotions of what we used to feel, it'll just be a passing thought once you realize that it's gone, it's in the past, it's not affecting you now, but it has affected who you've become. And it could start as, you know, as back as far as being in grade school and somebody calling you fat or ugly or whatever. I mean, I can remember being teased until 6th grade. And I mean, being called names, all kinds of names. And I guess I could have let it shape the rest of my life and how I felt about myself. And in a lot of ways, I did let it affect me, thinking that I wasn't good enough or pretty enough or thin enough or whatever. And maybe that's why things happened to me in my life. But as I got older, I was able to really look at the people who were teasing me and go, wow, you know, I let what they said and do affect me in a way. But it all boils down to, it brought you to who you are today. And if today you're not living who you really want to be because you're basing it on what was done or said to you in the past, then it's time for you to recreate your story the way you want it to be.
And being fully present in the moment without burying yourself in those moments of despair
is huge.
And learning to see yourself as whole and healed, right? Because
That's
otherwise we go into those patterns, and it's about being mindful, which is what we're teaching, but I think it's kind of the why of why we're teaching it.
Right, exactly.
Because we will tend to keep going down that path, and you might not recognize it right away. And I started out actually thinking about this morning. It's like, I personally do it myself, so that's why I can speak to it so clearly. So, but then to recognize the moment, and a lot of other things kind of collaborated with that this morning. So my Doreen Virtue did, and she spoke today in her card reading about being worthy, and you just said that, about saying I deserve to have this. And I actually started doing that when I went for my walk this morning. After all this was kind of heavy for me, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going for a walk, I got to start my day.
Right.
The sun is out, I needed the vitamin D immensely, and I think everybody does. So if you can get out today, after we're done here, get outside for at least 10 minutes.
Oh, get
Yeah,
some sunshine
I was
today.
like,
Yes,
just
we
really
need it.
thrilled to sit in the sun. But during that whole walk, I was thinking and, you know, saying it aloud in my head, and I actually had a few songs going through my head about the deserving part of it. And,
Yes.
you know, just bringing that forward. Commit to let go of it in your mind. Open yourself up energetically and emotionally. Let go actively, symbolically, spiritually, visually, clear and definite. Connect with your power.
Right,
So those were all
right,
the different
right.
things that came up while I was kind of doing all of that.
Right, right. Okay, so let's think of like, how can you begin to do this, okay? First of all, write down what it is. And I'm going to tell you something, because you can kind of relate to this. You walk in the door, one of your kids drops a dish and breaks it, and you absolutely roll off your rocker. You go crazy, you freak out, you're stressed, but a beep, but a bop, you just walked in the door. You got to go, like, what are you really angry about? Because it wasn't about that broken dish. It could be if it was your best china, but, like, get real about this.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that would not make you get to that point. And I don't know about you, but I stopped getting to that point a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, in my life, in retrospect, looking back, it happened at exactly the time in my life when a huge wave was coming in that I was going to be riding. And I think that letting go of whatever used to push my button, let it go from the past, really allowed me to be very patient and step back and look at things very differently and accept things very differently and non-react to things very differently. For all the buttons that tried to be pushed, I just didn't let them be pushed, because I finally said, all those things that used to make me react like that are not a part of who I really am and not who I want to be today. So I guess I kind of rewrote a while ago that part of my life that just didn't feel comfortable anymore to be that. So what you want to do is write down something that happened that you feel still affects you. When something else happens, it triggers that. You know, I smell my dad's cologne and I feel wonderful. I see a child being screamed at in public by their
That drives me crazy.
parent, or it like brings me back to like family screaming and yelling and fighting, and I cringe. So when you write this, write down things that made you really cringe, and then look at it differently. In seeing that behavior or seeing that arguing or seeing those situations, what did you learn? Now write it down, that you didn't want to be because that's not who you wanted to be. And then write down, who are you now because of that experience? Take the negative out of that experience and look at the positive side of who you are now. Now, in the flip side, there may be situations where a parent was abusive, or let's say a parent had an addiction. Maybe you, in your personality now, have taken on that trait. And maybe now it's time for you to look at this and go, I'm being this abuser, or I'm being this alcoholic, drug addict, because that's what was presented to me. But if that was such a horrible thing being presented to you, what made you choose to live that lifestyle? And today, right now, you can look at that and say, you know what, it's not really who I am. Because I know a lot of people that are drug addict, get sober, alcoholic, get sober. When they're sober, they're really that wonderful, loving person that they really are. And in that time, if they wrote down, maybe rewrote their life, that's what it was be. But I'm only giving you that as an example of, look at the traits you either learned from and kept on, or that you need to rewrite, recorrect. So make sure you write down the things that happen, because you want to get a truly good four eyes perspective of what you were looking at and what you grew up with. And now, how do you really want to look at that? what situation do you want to be? What do you want your life to be? Do you want it to be that, or do you want it not to be that?
Yeah. I wrote down, this was like, it was like channeling this morning. So I wrote, and when I wrote this, I was like, oh, I felt like I needed to share this for whatever reason. So my story is one of doing the best I could with what I had and what I knew. The story is old and outdated because I know I know so much more, but I hold on to it like an old shoe. So somehow, unconsciously, there is a comfort in playing and repeating the patterns. But I know this is a broken record that creates or recreates painful situations, or tired situations. Situations that weigh me down until I fall back in the pattern of the old story.
Right.
So I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but that was like, it just kept coming, and I was like, oh, that is kind of what I go through.
All right, well, what everybody goes through, right? We go through this every day.
Right.
Something comes into our path that definitely sets off a reaction of a pattern that we're in. But understand that those patterns were created by our emotions and our perceptions as we were growing up, and things happened to us. Being teased at school, being beat up on the playground, never being picked for a sport, never being asked to do group things with people. All these things we internalize, and if you really look at it, we're letting, again, other people's perspectives and behaviors write our feelings. So go back and really look at all of those things that made us who we are today. Look at the good and bad and see what you're ready to change and rewrite, because you can. It's kind of like past life regression therapy. Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss, who's like the forefather of this whole thing, and it's, research it, you can believe it or not, whatever, but I'm definitely a believer in past life regression. And what he found was, what pioneered this whole thing, how he pioneered this whole thing was by bringing somebody back to a past life where, and I'll give you an example of a true story in one of his books. I think it's Many Lives, Many Masters. One of his clients was scared to death of water. And she had no reason why, but she would get very anxious if she was around water, couldn't be near, couldn't go to the beach, whatever. And when he regressed her in a light trance past life regression, what she went back to was a lifetime where she drowned. Now, in bringing her back, the moral of the story is, by bringing her back to that and then her awakening from the session, she was able to come out of that drowning experience and still be alive. So the experience and feeling of death by water was no longer in her cellular memory. So look at all the things that have happened to us in our life that we don't think about every day on a conscious level, but it is definitely in your cellular memory. Look, you can research it, you can believe it or not, and it's not really until you experience something like this or can recall something from a past life that you can believe in this stuff. But when you let go of these things, you're able to allow all new experiences into your life. And isn't it wonderful to know that you have the power and the ability to rewrite these experiences that you're going to have? So if you're living a life that you're not really happy in, it's nobody's responsibility to change it. And I'm not even going to say somebody's fault. It's not your fault unless you keep redoing the same script. I was able to come out of that when I finally didn't marry somebody that I felt like I had to take care of. I married somebody that, was self-made man, could do on his own, didn't need me for, survival. And we were able to create a really wonderful marriage experience from that. And in retrospect, I learned so much more about myself from that relationship because I was able to focus more on, that. So really go back and write the things that traumatized you,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Write down the good things, write down the bad things. And then look at each thing and now bring it to the forefront and say, from that happening to me, how does it affect my response to A, B, and C now? And is this why I'm really feeling that way? Because the more feelings that you can let go of that energetically hold you down and bring you down, you're really skipping over a life of true happiness and,
Yeah.
and true joy because you become who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that goes back into our authentic self from last week.
Yes,
too.
yes.
Being authentic, and it's, I think, kind of the hardest part, really, and this is where all these like food addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions come from too. It's like, it's deep, and it's hard to
Yes.
face the feelings and
Yes.
like the rawness of it all. I used to be a surgical coordinator for ear, nose, and throat surgeon. And people would come out of the surgery, the sinus surgery, and they would have like packing in their nose. And a couple of days later, they would pull this packing out, and people would like drop like flies in the hallway. And I'd be like, "What? Why would you do this to yourself?" It was so painful. That is why it would scab up. It was horrible. And I would think like, it was like my job to sell the surgery too. I signed them up for it. I did all the insurance work, and I'd be like, "Why are they doing this? It's like ridiculous." And then I asked somebody, I was like, she's like, "Oh my God, I feel so much better." Well, here she was like ridden with polyps. She had chronic sinus issues, and this solved the problem for her. And she's like, "I was in as much pain
Fear.
before the surgery as I was going to be afterwards. So I just had to move forward." And out of that is how I make a lot of my decisions. Is like, when you get to a place of pain where it's like as painful of the thought and scary of the
Right.
thought to move forward, you kind of have to do it, because dulling your senses by eating or drinking, sooner or later you got to face them. You
Right,
know,
right.
and if you're eating too much, then you're going to gain weight, and then you're going to be looking at yourself and like, this isn't how I want to live, and then
Right.
you're more depressed.
Right.
Same thing with coming out of alcohol or drugs. Same thing. Like you're in so much more pain that you have to keep going. So it's like, okay, now I just have to like get a grip.
Are you holding grudges with people? Are you harboring bitterness about a spoiled relationship or something? All of these things, like, you just got to move through them, see them for the lessons of wisdom, of what they really are. And it's just so, like, empowering. Like, you change like this.
Yeah.
And it's really true. Like, if you're not changing like that, you're the only one stopping you from that. Look honestly at how or why you may want to put blame on somebody or something else for what's going on in your life right now. And whatever God deals to you today, He dealt it to you for a reason. And if you can just hold the thought that it's for something better, start writing down what it is you want.
Yeah.
And exactly the way you want it.
Yeah, because if you come out of the pattern and you're suddenly standing there like, okay, just broke the pattern.
Right.
Now what do I do?
Right. Stop looking at what went wrong.
Right?
Look for the
Yeah.
opportunities
Look for the
and what's happening to you.
because otherwise you can sink back into it again.
Right. Right.
So if you know now, and that's part of the deserving the worthiness part of it, if you know, like, that's where I want to head now. This is who I see myself. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to be wealthy. I want to have lots of friends. I want to be social. All the things that I want to have.
Right.
I deserve to have that. I'm going to have it, you know? So,
Yeah,
like, so you have to then start exploring how that's going to happen for you. What do you like?
Yeah, and don't keep playing the old tapes.
No.
Make sense of your past.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it make sense to you. And understand it happened, why it happened, and now write exactly what you want that you didn't want before, because now you have a chance to really see like what it is. I've said this before, a lot of what our past holds for us taught us what we didn't want to be now. So get rid of the destructive thinking, because that's really what it is. See it as a lesson, decide what you really want, and write it as you see it now. Write what you want now. I mean, I love a good challenge. I think that's why my father and I were so close, because we both loved a good challenge, and boy was I his challenge. Boy was I his challenge.
Shocking.
Yeah, so think, feel, and just be like the person you want to be now, like today.
So I wrote, this was the last thing I wrote on the topic today.
Okay.
Today it is time to let go of this old story. I release and let go of the fear that's in my belly. I release and let go of all the things and feelings and emotions that are hiding inside my body and in the, like in all the nooks and crannies, like everything that there is. It's time, man. It's just time. And that's, I think I pretty much recited a lot of that while I was walking on the track today, because I was like, the sun's out. I'm releasing this crap. So I was just telling Phyllis when I got here, heavy energy today. So I don't know if it's like my own energy, or like Phyllis said she felt it too today.
Oh
so
yeah, today's energy is like a real
heavy. We just had this like real heavy conversation too. So I think it's just part of that releasing.
You're not the only ones feeling it. We're feeling it also.
Yeah. So it's
Everybody
like
is.
part of the releasing it though.
We're all so connected. We're also moving through such similar situations, just different details. That's all. And you know what? When you really understand that we're all in it together, and like we're doing this so we can be a part of maybe helping you move through something, even though physically we can't be in the same place.
Right.
We hope by tuning into this. And real quick, I want to let you know, next week we're going to be Tuesday at 12, not Wednesday at 12. So for next week only, we're going to be Tuesday, and we'll post it and let you know, and we'll let you know what the topic's going to be. Maybe we'll think of it sooner and give you some time. But I don't know, things just don't work like that. We like to be like,
it happens. We actually talked yesterday, and we're like, well,
whatever comes through, comes
let me know
through.
when you think of a topic, and we didn't again until this morning. So
It was awesome.
that's kind of how we both roll, and it is that spontaneous for us, and it is typically, because we do this at noon on Wednesday. It is typically the morning of Wednesday where I'm actually not racing out of the house and kind of getting stuff done
Right.
at home.
Right.
So it's just kind of like that meditation where you're like, have stillness, and you can actually think of something that you need to talk about or whatever comes to you.
Right. And it's,
So I do want to say hi to Jamie, and who else was? Oh, hi
Barb's
Jamie.
been on. Hi, Barb.
Barb's there.
Hi Barb.
I also, one other thing that I just forgot what I wanted to say. Okay, never mind. I told you about Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, hey Barb.
It's live.
All right, so we really truly hope that these sessions that we're doing are helping you. If you know somebody that you think it might help, please feel free to share. We just want to be that love and joy and fun in your life.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Love you.